Oh, hello again. Yeah, I've changed. I didn't change. I changed my clothes. Okay. Um, sorry I didn't take care of my hair any better, but I really can't get any better. I mean, I'm old and I'm look this way, but for my age, I think I look pretty good. For the importance, I know I look very good. Okay, because the importance of this whole video that last day is it means last day. It's the day you have to decide. This is a choice that everybody in this world has to make. And immediately, it's not a choice, it's not a belief anymore. It's what you do. This is you either, if you don't want to participate this, or you think you're going to put it off, think again. God's the one you're answering to, and He knows your choice. He knows your choice. You can't hide it from God. It's obvious if you don't participate in going to get your God's coin, or if people don't uh, start calling me. Now, one of the things I missed that list on is how to get in touch with me. I am Reverend Joseph Andrew Jensen Sr. Call me at, get this, one is the country I live in, the United States. If I'm here in the United States, you don't have to dial the one. 843-625-1558. Again, 843-625-1558. Anybody in the world can call me, provided you speak English, because I don't speak any other language fluently. Now, what I'm going to tell you, I said I needed 1,000 bank managers. I don't care what country you're from or where you're from. All you got to do, you can finance a bank. Find in your country, donate the funds, build a bank. You're going to build a bank and get it started. Find your neighborhood, count the number of people in your neighborhood within your whole walking distance. Walk, both ways of your thing. Walk 1 mile. Don't even walk 1 mile. Walk a half a mile or a quarter of a mile at the most. Go a quarter of a mile. That's far enough. But within um, a half a mile, that's even more. I don't know what that is in kilometers. Okay, I'm in the United States, but you'll figure it out. Don't walk far from your home, where you want to put your bank, and build it according to how many people are in it. Remember, in God's world, they're not going to allow competition, nor do you need competition. You're getting paid a salary. You're not going to even have to charge per transaction. Now, that restaurant, break room, cafeteria, whatever you build, that's meant to feed your employees for free 3 times a day, and that's for customers to eat anytime. Okay? And it's going to be nice. That's why you're going to have a staff run only by the cooks, food service people. They're the ones that wash the dishes. They're the ones that are cook. They're the ones that take care of everything. That'll be a manager. The manager you will employ, and they could apply too from calling me. But I don't know which bank they'll be in. So that means that certainly you have to get the names of the bank managers that are willing to build a God's Coin bank right now. Break ground. Get ready to break down, but call me first. Then choose your location. I don't care where it's at. You choose your location, and then do your little walk. You find now if you're in New York, of course, and you do that walk. Well, guess what? You build your bank according to how many people you can figure that on in that bank account without encroaching on another. No encroachments. No encroachments necessary. You're not going to be asking for more customers than what you have in your area. There's not going to be the kind of war going on, but competition going on. We want to cover that whole ground, but no competition. So within walking distance of everybody's bank. Okay? So that, that means the next bank manager that wanted to be from the first bank manager, he needs to walk the distance from that other banker's bank area to his outskirts of his banking area. But you guys figured it out. Like, God's not a micromanager. You guys figured it out. That's why you are bank CEOs, not managers, but you're CEOs, and this will be your permanent bank. So you understand what I'm saying? You find the funds, you find the architects, the engineer, and most of them will be willing. They will. You'll get their money by God's coin. I'll pay for everything. I'll pay for the building materials. I'll pay for the uh, what, whatever salaries you have to give will be coming from them joining God's services. Okay, and it'll be these are set salaries. One God's coin for ordinary labor. If they're a manager, they're going to get two, and if they're going to be a CEO or the owner of a company, then they'll get three. It's simple as that. In God's world, there's not going to be any competition, no need for greed. You're going to share. We're sharing. That's where all the money in this world's coming from. Trillions and trillions of dollars. Maybe in this current world, you can't. They can't even come up with 20 trillion. It doesn't matter because I can multiply that any amount of money I want to. But what's going to happen with the current saying, even if you don't, the current value of monies, everybody's money is going to go up or down. The United States and go down to the bottom. We're seventh from the top now. We'll be seventh from the bottom. If we misbehave, we go down to the bottom. In other words, you start killing each other, you're going down to the bottom, and you're going to stay at the bottom for a while. Every country that kills, you're going to drop to the bottom. You start breaking the rules, and that's one of the rules: thou shalt not kill. Don't miss it this time. Don't misread it. Don't misunderstand it. It's one for every country, everywhere, in everything. Don't say the Ten Commandments don't apply to you. It's the first time God ever wrote something down on stone. Now, why wouldn't it apply to everybody in this earth? And you know what I already said. If God lives inside you, why would you argue with that fact? You got unborn children inside you. You got DNA inside you. You want your children and your DNA to be locked in a prison? Sure, you might be in there with other women, have children, men and women together, but they won't care how the women have the children. It's going to be a rough. It's going to be a rough place because we're not going to micromanage it either. You might get fed like hogs. I don't know. Would I care? I don't care. Now God might care. I wouldn't care a bit. God will probably give you a banquet every day. He'd probably make everything look like the Holiday Inn. That's what God would do. He'd make you as comfortable as can be, everybody. That's not what I would do. But you see, God's got to do whatever is written already down in the book of life. He's got to follow the rules. He can't intervene. He intervenes, the next thing you know, everything goes crazy. Ask the quantum theorist. Ask the quantum physicist. Ask a quantum mechanic. People have a good idea what's going to happen when you break the rules. We should have a idea what's going to happen when we break the rules. We have, and what this is going to be the result of it. We've lived through the set of rules that man set. It ought to be that you're welcome, but it's so far it's been hasn't been sold and been pushed aside for almost 5 years. From June the 9th, 2019 to 2029. That's over 5 years. That's right. It's already been 5 years. It's going on 6. But anyway, you understand what I'm talking about. I made a mistake in that last video. I couldn't figure out Khadijah's thing. I looked it up, and I was almost right the first times I said it. But it wasn't clear because I stopped every time. It's 619, November the 22nd, 619 AD. And Muhammad, um, as far as Muhammad goes, that whole story has a lot more to it. But the reason why his experience in Ethiopia has to do with the Quran, the way he wrote it. He was captured, and he knew that they didn't know where he was at. They didn't know he was in Ethiopia. They didn't kill the Ethiopians either. They let him go back, I suspect. Now, I went to one of the places I was going to go with Selena was back to Ethiopia to ask the Holy and Holies, or actually tell the Holy, where's Muhammad's papers. The first thing Muhammad told them was the same story I told you. And he says that's the same what the Ethiopians heard his story where they killed his 3 sons and kidnapped his 3 daughters. The extra daughter I couldn't think of, the 4th daughter, was his first daughter, which wasn't. That was because Khadijah had a child with her former husband, which was a very old man. She was the oldest. She would have been 17 or 18 years old when they got Muhammad and Khadijah got married in 595 AD. Muhammad was very young. He was only 20. Khadijah was 35, 15 years older. And then it was 2 years before it was the first child, their first child born. Their son was born 597 AD. The first daughter was born in 604 AD. So they had 3 sons back to back to back. Had to, before the first daughter was born. 604. The first daughter, I think her name was Zainab. She died almost at the age 12. Probably when she was raped. I don't know. She didn't last long. Her sister, I can't recall her name, but her sister's in there. She has a completely different name. I should have looked it up before I started talking. I really don't talk without notes, and I let Allah do the talking. But it's still in my mind, and I still fight God to say something that's important to me. And there was a second daughter, and she died before she was old enough to really be a mother. Okay, those 2 daughters. Fatima was too young. She was only 6 years old when their other sisters were kidnapped. And so they didn't take her. But what happened to Fatima was raised by Khadijah until she died. She was about 10 years old when Khadijah died, 4 years later. And when she was died at 4 years later, when their mother was in 622 AD, on November 22nd, Muhammad took her to Abdul Baker. Abdul Baker, Muhammad was a shepherd and he kept sheep for Khadijah's former husband. And he was a rich man, a very kind man. And Muhammad was a sheep herder. But when he entered Khadijah, there was she was a camel caravan, and she had a camel caravan that was run with Abdul Baker. And she was very successful as a camel. Her father, she learned from her father, and her father was promised to a camel merchant who didn't want her, and he was put out. Why was Khadijah put out by her first husband? Because she was too kind. She gave away everything. And she dropped the prices on everything. She was too living country, and she says, get out. For a second, as the old man says, oh, rather than be ashamed, you marry me, you can be one of my wives. You can be my wife. I don't have any more. And that's what happened. Khadijah, he saved her honor by marrying her. They had one child together. I keep on wobbling my head because of the thing, but I'm the one that's causing the problem here. Now, it's important that you know this. Muhammad took his daughter, Fatima. He was a camel merchant, okay, and they became like brothers. And she Fatima was born as in nobility with the Quraysh. And the Quraysh were camel merchants. They went from Syria to Yemen, summer and winter, whichever seasons favored those times. When it's cooler, I imagine they were in the hottest areas. And it was summer, winter, it was maybe opposite. Anyway, you understand what I'm talking about. They were very successful camel merchants of the Quraysh. Abdul Baker's family, they were like servants of the Quraysh. They loved camels. They took care of the camels. That's what their responsibility was. But they were part of the Quraysh, but they were the servant. They weren't the nobility. Khadijah wasn't a part of the nobility. Okay, like the daughter of a sheikh. Okay, now Muhammad took his daughter Fatima before he went on a rampage in 622, 619 AD. The same day, he took her to Abdul Baker to keep her. Why he went on to carry on the revolution, start the revolution. He didn't know he's going to start a revolution, but he's going to have his last say. And he hollered out, Allah, 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 Allah. Why he turned over things. And the Meccans had seen enough. They already seen how they took his daughters and killed his sons. But the Meccans the soldiers didn't kill sons. The Meccans killed the sons. They stoned them to death. Now they're going to make up for lost time. They're going to holler Allah as many times as Muhammad. And they joined in. But it's a massacre. Muhammad left with by the hair of his, by 158 followers. 108 Meccans took Muhammad and they ran for their lives. When they said they ended up in Ethiopia, they stayed 1 year. But that's where they learned Judaism and they learned Christianity, because Jesus is mentioned in the first Quran as much as the Jewish. 40 people written in the Torah and the Quran are written in the Torah and in the Bible are written about in the Quran. So Muhammad became a Jew and a Christian before he was captured. And he had to make sure that everybody knew that he was captured, would question, how does he know about Jews' religion? How does he know about Christians? in Jesus. Where did he learn this? Had he gone straight from that revolution uh, to Medina to build up an army of 10,000, he would never know these things. Why would he include that in the Quran? These names of Jews, the names of Jesus. This is one of the things that he wanted uh, the world, especially the Islam world and Muslims. Okay, what happened when I'm going to explain this part, and you guys need to understand this. But when they sent 10,000 Islamics, after they found bounty hunters turn over his location of a man staying in a house that they see the Ethiopians keeping him alive, sneaking in at night and get to bring him provisions and keeping up with him. They, under suspicion, they took, they had the spies, the bounty hunters, showed him where he was at so they could receive the reward. 10,000 army went because they didn't know whether they were going to run up against the army, and they didn't know how many Ethiopians they might meet up with too. They didn't know anything. They took the whole. There was only 13,000 soldiers in Mecca, so 10,000 left to go get Muhammad, leaving 3,000. Under 36,000 Meccans. As soon as they were gone, the Meccans took them before they could draw their swords. I think that just probably beheaded them without any second thought. From that day on, those Islamics, those Meccans, did not ever call themselves Islamic anymore. They called themselves Muslims. The difference. They never allowed anybody to call them a Muslim. And there's two Qurans. There's actually one Quran written by Muhammad was still in this, the Quran written in Medina. But the one in Medina added that when the revolution happened, and they said the revolution happened in 622 AD. Well, it didn't happen in 622 AD. It happened in 619 AD, 2 years before. So in 622 AD, anyway, when they captured him, it was 8 years later. No, it was actually 10 years later. But 8 years later, at his house, they found him like that with 10,000 soldiers. And then the general that was leading them, he took Muhammad and took him back with that 1,000 soldiers and left 8,000 soldiers in 9,000 soldiers in Medina to build the mosque in Medina and build the thing, because they had intentionally tried to take the generals and taking them back to recant Allah, say it's all a joke, I made this up, I didn't never mean it, there is no Allah. It wouldn't work out that way, because when the general reached Mecca, even before then, he suspected something. So he put his robe around Muhammad that was bound to a horse saddle, a horse, whatever. And he untied his hands, and he put his rope around Muhammad first, and they cut his hands loose. And he cut. Apparently, he either had feet, but he cut his feet loose too, if the feet were bound. And then he brought him up to the front of the line to be like prayed him in. Sure enough, when they got close enough, the sound come, "Praise be to Allah, it's Muhammad." They shouted it in Arabic. "Praise be to Allah, it's Muhammad." Muhammad's name would never have been mentioned if Islam was in there. So that's a good thing that the general had Muhammad up front, because it made him look like they joined him. They're part of them. There's a Muslim now. It looked like it until they started getting to the gates. Then Muhammad jumped off his horse real fast to hug the people. Then the rest of the army started to draw their swords, drawn. The Meccan people took 9,000, 999 of them. Muhammad grabbed the general and he got him to the Kaaba. When he got into the Kaaba, the Islamic leader claimed to be a Muslim, but he wasn't sure about it. And he says, "How can you blame us? We know nothing about this Allah. You have to write it down for us and let us know what it's all about." Well, Muhammad's not stupid, far from being stupid, but he's not a really writer, smart guy either. Okay? But he's smart enough. Remember, Muhammad never got to preach about Allah before, and he never talked much to people. That's the truth. He didn't preach or anything like that. He couldn't. He lost his sons and daughters because he, just for what he did say. And the revolution, the only thing he did was holler out Allah. He didn't teach it. He was just shouting. They joined it. But now what's going on is this Islamic leader that claimed now might be a Muslim thing, but you can't blame us. Tell us something about your Allah. He says, the first thing he said was, "Thank God you're alive." Muhammad, praise God you're alive. The thing about it is the man was told him to write the Quran, that he might not be able to teach and understand. Muhammad, being a wise man, and he also listens to God, he said, "Okay." But he added everything that he had learned about the Jews and the Christians, Jesus, in the Quran. And so in the Quran, even today, Jesus is not condemned. Neither are Moses, Seth, Kenan, Enoch, but it's actually Methuselah's head chest. But the reason Mizraim come to mind was because Mizraim was a Nephilim brother to Cush. And you see, that's why I come to my mind. But it was Methuselah had the chests that were put on the ark by his army. Methuselah was 969 years old. He could have died and gone on the thing and lived longer than that. But he didn't go, and he deliberately did not see his grandson Moses, because his grandson was an albino, and he thought it was a curse, and so he sent his two wives, or his wife Ada and his daughter Zillah. He sent them to be, to take care of the teenager. When Moses was alive, they were only teenagers. They were 13 years old when Moses was born. And Moses was born an albino, but he's also the most beautiful man that the Ethiopians ever seen. His pictures in all these stained glass windows throughout Ethiopia. The guy was huge. He had muscles of the Hulk, but his hair was white. His skin was white. His eyes were blue eyes, but he had the strength. If I had to imagine what he looked like, it would look like a good-looking troglodyte that you'd see in the second Time Machine that they made, the movie The Time Machine that they made. But he's a beautiful man. Huge. Muscles are everywhere. And he had to be huge. Him and his sons had to be huge people because, they were building the ark. He was 600 years old when the ark got built. But Methuselah could have gone on the ark, but he said, "No, I'm too old, and I don't. I never seen my grandson. Only I seen my grandchild Japheth was the only one he communicated with, and that's because they looked at star charts together that was created by Mahalalel and also his son Jared. Now these stories are very interesting. I'll be telling them later. All these things, God's let me know a huge number of stories, but they're all the truth. But the angels will be there to back up what I tell you is true. I'll let maybe they'll tell me the version before I tell it, or maybe it's right or wrong. But I'm just telling you, just like right now, the angels will be with us. He's going to build heaven on earth. There won't be any taxes. There won't be any uh, health. Us paying for health care, education. They'll be given the solar. When it starts out, it'll start out with solar. It'll end up going to nuclear. Every household will have its own little nuclear reactor that's completely safe. That lasts so long. Possibly even something different than that. There's energy, things of energy happening all over. I mean, hydrogen generators run off of water. And there's perpetual motion run off of springs, for God's sake. I'm talking about actual motors run off of springs. They'll keep on running until you put enough drag on there to stop them. But they get faster and faster and faster as the springs weaken. They get faster. They start out with this tremendous pull because they got a lot of tension. But as soon as you start moving a lot, just like your hands, they get freedom of movement. Boom, that goes faster and faster and faster and faster. And you can't stop the daggum thing. It's perpetual motion. And even with the under drag of running a generator and stuff, they do it. They can do it. They can pump water and they can do things, meaning they can create electricity. Perpetual motion. This is not far behind us. You people are quantum physicists, you people in quantum mechanics, you're going to be amazed at how dumb you really are, because you're going to get the answers. Parker, Tony, Beats, Rick, Ness, all you people that are get successful with gold, you know what's already successful. You're already set up. All God's going to do is point out where the gold's at on everyone's property. He's going to send the angels to you, just like he sent to the little guy that has a truck with this with lawn. They go around fixing everybody's system. It's going to be something like that. He's an angel too. But real angels are going to come there and point out where the gold's at. Why does God want the gold out the ground? So that we'll quit messing with it. God's going to actually let the animals tame themselves. Quit being wild. A few generations, but it's going to take a few generations with the murder and killing out of our system. The need to kill and murder is going to take 2 or 3 generations, if not more. Just like it's going to take the wild animals that many years to finally make peace with human beings. It'll take that many generations for us to get used to each other. But we're going to leave each other alone. We're going to have money. When you're shopping, are you thinking about anybody else normally? No, you're thinking about you first. And that's the way it should be. You look out. Everybody is born to have children, to protect your family, and raise them the best you can do. Protect them, raise them. Have them learn whatever you know and whatever you can learn together. That's what it's all about. And be happy. The traditions and things, this is not what God's looking for. Traditional prayer time, a personal time that you talk to God. He likes spontaneity. He likes adventure. When God asks you to say, come on, everybody go to the beach. You know who's behind that first thought. That's God. God's just got to push the button. He's got to fire the synapses at the first thought. He has first word. Now, when you get the second thinking of that, then it means you're fighting God. You're going to be fighting God. You got to figure out something. I don't really want to do that. That's you. That's you going against God. God's trying to tell you what He wants to do. We've been building for God's dreams, for God and for all the people in our DNA's dreams. We've been building the dreams of those we can't even see anymore. Even the thoughts of our unborn. We're never alone, even though we think we are. It's been religions and governments that separated us. It's inhandleable. They wanted us in groups that can be. The word indoctrinated goes hand in hand with the word brainwash. They want to brainwash you into believing they're the only people in the world that matters. And they're going to take care of you like God can take care of you. And God loves them. No, God didn't love them. He hated them. He hated them for what they were doing. They're hypocrites. That's in God's message. Christians, I said, were following the Antichrist. The same people that they wrote about. They wrote the word Antichrist. They wrote the word the great deceiver. Everything was blamed on Satan. Satan didn't do half the stuff he was blamed for. Most of the stuff he was blamed for. We're the ones behind the corruption of this world, and we let them. We're scared of the bullies of this world. That's why we're all going to learn martial arts. We're not going to be scared no more. Nobody's going to ever be in that position anymore. We all have to learn the martial arts. So that we'll never fall into this trap again of being bullied. We're going to bully the bullies. And a group looking out for each other. Yeah, a group's looking out for each other. That's one of the things about Kempo. We look like at the car that's coming over the hill. As he comes, we're watching and we're thinking of what we're going to do. We devise our plan to either attack or defend ourselves. We know we size up everybody like a turkey. That's part of Kempo. Judo, as I said, is a deadly thing, but that gets somebody to the ground, and then also it's ready to kill you in a wrestling match. Jiu-jitsu is a combination of both. Stand-up martial arts and judo. Kempo just won't tolerate a second strike. You'll learn that. And that's why the reason we'll learn that is because we're such cowards. About the clothing and traditions, they'll be held out from Monday to Thursdays. Will be days when everybody's free. Traditions won't be affected. On Wednesday, on Fridays, when the Islam starts, it's going to be recommended that in the churches that all religions can join each other by bringing covered dishes. Bringing covered dishes to eat after worship. If people in other religions only want to listen in and see it, they can set up the tables, and prepare the food. Help arrange the things. Into prop serving dishes and chairs and napkins and whatever, and prepare everything for while everybody's worshiping if they don't want to worship along with them in their traditional way. But afterwards, eating is common to all religions, all people. we all love to eat, and eating in this way, in a type of uh, how you say, buffet or smorgasbord, whatever you want to call it, eating together brings people closer, and that we'll understand each other. Anytime any religion has taken the time to honor God, it was in their heart to honor God. It's in their heart to honor the Lord Jesus Christ, or whatever. Even if it was the Buddha, to honor Buddha, Buddha was just another form of God to them. These God, when they had many gods, then that's because they really didn't know any different. They were taught that. They were brainwashed into whatever religion, whatever sounded good. But the idea is, for these deities or this deity, they took time. Now they're going to be re-educated. That's all. Everybody's got to have a re-education. They're getting their money from God, one God. God's the one who thought up this whole thing. I'm not smart enough to figure it out. I didn't. I was autistic, and because I was autistic, I never mainstreamed in school. I took a lot of reading classes and a lot of basic arithmetic classes. We didn't even get to take algebra or complicated math. We didn't have to do homework, and we were different. We were taught special. In many states and places, they said we rode the yellow bus, the small bus. Well, in California, we didn't have buses like that. We were within walking distance to school. We rode our bicycles or walked. But the idea is the same. Only time I really learned independently was when I went to summer schools, and I went to summer school every summer. I loved going to summer school because I actually could learn something. That's where I actually took algebra the first time. I flunked it, but I still took it. Eventually, I started learning it. I learned it in college from a, a teacher from Lebanon. His last name is Coltrane, and I'll never forget. He made it look so easy. It's just his only language. If you know two things, you can find out three. You know three things, you can find out four. It's just adding one more solution if you know how many things you wanted to know. And it's just a way of communicating and writing. Once I got that through my head, I said, oh, man, it was easy. And I now made a straight A in college. When I took my in college, boom. It's like they turned on the lights. Which I mentioned, God up here in your synapses of a brain. He's always teaching. He's been teaching you from the time before you was born in your mother's belly. How do you think you ask your parents how they met? You're going to find out a mystical journey like you never heard before. But they're going to explain to you what God had to write down, not what God did. He had to write. He wrote it down long before before time was started. From what he was seeing, we led our own lives, and he corrected. So this if you want to call it, wrote it down, but he can't go against what he wrote down in the book of life. Not one thing. He can't go. Neither can we. We can't change one thing that happens in this life. Accidents, things like anything that happens like that, change the course of history. So it can't happen. We don't want things, but then think about this. Because God runs these little synapses in the brain, there's a switch up there that he's got to switch on and off. That's to feel, to see, to hear, to think. Somebody could point a gun right at your head. And before that bullet hits you, God can throw that switch. That you don't feel a thing. You immediately will be in your DNA, living in your children, living in your relatives. You're immediately living in all of them. So you won't know anything because you'll still be living in them, but you'll be seeing it from a different perspective. You'll be alive in a way because you, of course, if they're right there, they're going to see it, and that's going to be the thing, and they're going to hear about it. They can't stop that. But the point of the matter is, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to know it. You're not going to see the mess afterwards. You're only going to hear about it later from your relatives if they're not eyewitnesses to see it. You're only going to hear about it later because if they want eyewitnesses. So that bullet damage, you're going to see it from a different perspective. And you're not going to feel it. Same as when you fall off a building or fall off a cliff. Or something as tragic as it happens as a car wreck or something like that. If God's a merciful God and can stop it. But remember, he can't go do anything outside of what's written. What he wrote then has to be followed. You understand what I'm talking about? At least somebody's got to have a little idea. I know maybe all this is over you guys' heads now because it's far cry for me why anybody doesn't recognize God already and thought. Knowing what I know right now because it's not rocket science. God lives inside us and gives us life. Yet it seems to be. But we are brainwashed. Don't make no doubts about it. Now, let me tell you what I'm currently doing with another extension of this since I'm not, instead of me making another video right behind this. On my birthday, I'm ordering two things. I've come up to spend $120 on food. And God has given me a diet to live on. Called one, and I give it God gave me the name to give it. It was 1-2 punch diet. One day, I'll eat only popcorn and bottled water. Every time I eat, the 3 meals I eat will be huge amounts of popcorn, like 16 cups of popcorn. Whatever amount I can get, 16 cups per serving. That's as much as I can eat. If it's 16 cups, per meal, that's 16 cups. I know how much calories I'll spend. For breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner 3 times a day, and I'll be stuffed with popcorn. I'll drink at breakfast, besides take my medicine, I'll take 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. Every day I'll take 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. I'll learn why. This is a diet, 1-2 punch diet. The next day, I'm going to eat nothing but pistachio nuts. The first day is called carb day, and that's going to be all carbs. What the MTC coconut oil does, it's full of polyphenol, which turns into MTCs. It's called MTC coconut oil. MTCs turn directly into ketones. So it's artificially creating ketones. Normally, your body has to fast for 24 hours or more to produce ketones, and you have to take litmus tests and everything else and starve yourself to produce ketones. But this is just artificial ketones. It's already MTCs. It already didn't go through starvation. You just took it. And so you're building ketones in your body, which will make your urine acidotic. You can check it with the litmus paper to see if it's working. And ketones are the directors of whether you burn fat or not. Now, in the coconut oil, ketones direct 2 things. If you're eating too many carbs, It lets the carbs bypass the bloodstream entirely. Like you'll starve. Your body will be starving that day. Even though you're eating popcorn, it'll be starving that day because you'll be eliminating all the carbs. One way or another, you're going to eliminate it through urine or elimination. Okay. But they're no value to nobody. So all the popcorn you ate that day is the same thing as fasting because you're going to eliminate every bit of that. But you can't do that with any other kinds of food. There's only certain kinds of food that you can carbs that you can do that with. Popcorn is one of them. Now, if you do that with popcorn only, like me, that's just like a day of fasting. You should be building ketones after that next morning, and you can check that. The next day, when you wake up, you start every meal with hot coffee 30 minutes before you eat, while you're taking your medicine and drinking that uh, MTC oil. But now let's tell you what's going to happen on MTC on that day when you're going to start out with cashews. It's a big bunch of cashews. When you get this big bunch of cashews, you're going to be more than satisfied. Okay, believe me, that's going to be like 500, 600, 700 calories, more than that. You're going to be closer to 800 calories per meal. You're going to eat that cashews. I forget. I think I think every meal is going to be like it's going to be 800 calories anyway, but that's going to be actually 3/4 of a cup of in-shell pistachios, not cashews. Pistachios in the shell, because most of the MTC is in the husk that you have on the outside of a peanut or the outside of a cashew or the outside of not a cashew, but a pistachio. So you don't want to, and you also want to slows you down so that you feel like you ate more. But 3/4 of a cup or 1 cup of shelled pistachios doesn't look like much, but believe me, that's a lot of calories, a lot of saturated fat calories. Only 800 calories per serving. So you're going to have over maybe closer to 1,000 or 1,200. I don't know. I mean, I have it written down, but I don't want to think about that right now. But the idea is one day is going to be pistachios. That's going to be saturated that fat day. In other words, I'm going to do that for 40 days. I have 50 pounds to lose, and then I'll be down to my no fat. I'm 205 now. I'll go down to 155. Hopefully, in the 40-day fast, I'll be able to do that even faster. Maybe in 25 days. I'll hope to lose 2 pounds a day. I'm going to have to check my urine every morning. Now, I'm calling this the 1-2 punch diet. Now, I made 2 videos back to back. I don't want any money for my diet plan. I'll just be telling you how it works. I'll be telling you how the situation with Selena and me worked out. I'm telling you how well the word worked out, whether anybody's fixing to build a bank. You already got the money's coming to you. It's already already there. One God's coin, waiting on you, your newborn child, all your children, your grandparents, whoever's in that household, whether they're related or not. As long as they're living in that household, they will have an account and a place to go, hopefully in their neighborhood. Now, depending on how fast the banks get in their neighborhood, they might have to travel to that bank. But the thing about it is that some banks are trying to get banks to stay within their neighborhood, but they can't stop people from traveling to other banks to start. Then when the one gets in their neighborhood, transfer back. So temporarily, some banks will do better than the others. It doesn't really matter to the banks because it just determines the size of the bank that they want. I tell people not to build a bank no bigger than what their walking distance that they're at. Okay, so they can only handle the customers they're at. But I'm forgetting the fact that it might take people building bigger banks because of the until the ones build those other banks. These are things. Well, these other banks, they're going to get more consequence. These bigger banks, they're not going to be wasting their money by building a bigger bank because I can make them like part of the headquarters and increase their God's coin. You understand what I'm saying? If they're a headquarter bank in their neighborhood because they're the biggest bank starting out, they'll get more God's coin. That goes for the CEO, that goes for the bank managers, and that goes for the employees as well. I have nothing to lose because every God's coin has. Remember, I'm getting a duplicate, and I'm really giving you back what you gave me. You know, or what I gave you. I'm just kind of giving it back to myself. Now, I'm not losing at all. This is what God's. This is all God's thinking, not mine. I believe me. Money doesn't really matter to me in the sense that if I didn't have the money for the protection, I wouldn't be able to keep my promises. I had to be investing money too. That's where the little household nuclear reactors come from. Going to be helping me, maybe just as faster than you, because I'll probably meet with them more. Because they're advising me and telling me secrets and things to do and to invest in. I'm not the smartest cookie in the world, but I'm a great. I can until this happened to me in 2019. Now I am the smartest guy in the world. I can claim that because I know who's talking for me and who I'm talking. You know, instead of speaking in tongues that you don't understand, now you can understand what I'm saying. That's the difference. It's still God. I can tell. You should be able to tell because I don't stutter. I don't slow down. I don't have notes. Watch me when I'm talking. Listen to what I'm saying. Basically, I'm speaking to you in tongues that you can understand. At least people in English can understand. I don't speak any other language right now. If I marry Selena, she'll be teaching me, like we have been talking about for 2 years. She can teach me Arabic and Egyptian. She can translate all my books into Arabic, and she can. Egyptian is completely different than Arabic. It's not spoken very much except between Egyptians. But it's wonderful to know, especially if you want to really know the secrets of the Egyptians and understand it, and you can read and write it. That's where it comes valuable. Then you can understand what everything's all about. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. This is all going to NVIDIA and GPS. Yes, we're going to use that ourselves, but they're going to the people aren't going to pay out the nose like for the electricity anymore. They're not going to pay that because people have so much money. We'll have so much more money than they will. It's a drop in the bucket. But I'm paying for it anyway. It's going to come out of my God's coin, just like the king. I'll pay. I'm buying them out. I'm buying the video out. I'm buying all the people out. I'm buying the technology. I'm keeping the same employee, the same people working there, but they're paid by God's services. Do you understand how it works? Their minds and everything they do and everything they learn will belong to God. And we'll use it by God, and we'll throw out what we know is to be harmful, the garbage. What NVIDIA has, they'll get a good price for their money. They'll get way much more for it than they are right now. Keep that in mind. I'm not your competitor. God is the one that's going to bless you above way more. you're going to, all your shareholders and everything else, nobody's going to lose a dime. They're going to gain. But then you're going to end up working for God. And what's God's going to let? Is God going to let scammers or somebody come through that's trying to earn something when everybody's trying to get rid of money? So it doesn't go together. You know what I'm saying? The world's, what we understand of the world right now is greed. Power taken away from us, our freedom's taken away from us. You're going to gain all the freedom you want because you're going to want to be voting. You guys are going to make the rules. And you guys are going to make the rules together. In the whole country, everybody's going to speak as one 24/7. Your governments will be on transparency. The government doors open to everything they're up to will be on reality TV within their own country, and people can vote on it overnight. They can watch it while it's happening, and they can vote on it before the morning. The next day, they're on the new business. The results are passed by a phone call from the homes. The people will make either a yes and no decision, or even the table something. That would be the decision of the voters. But it's next day's business. All the hidden archives of every country, everything that's ever kept secret, is going to be brought to the surface. Good or bad, data. It'll be looked over. It won't be kept unless it aids us. It's gonna something good for us. And if it's good for us to know, just to know, it'll be made public for all us to know and told to us what the day's all about. Who assassinated who killed who withheld this. The ones that know something. You think this motor that they discovered that runs off of springs is new technology? It's probably come back in the 1800s. Could have been in the 1700s. But this technology was buried for many, many years. I remember when I was years ago, when they had gasoline was outrageously high priced, and somebody started making gasoline in their backyard by grass clippings and collecting grass clippings and leaves, raking yards for people for free, mowing their lawns for free. But he used a catcher to catch it all, and he made his own fuel out of it. He only did that just a little while before they bought his patent out. He had a patented system. That patent was bought and thrown away or archived, so to speak. The Vatican's going to turn over all the books in its basement, everything they have in the basement. The government's going to turn out their secrets, good and bad. They're going to learn. They're going to be on even keel here. The whole world's going to be on even keel. We're going to know the past, but we're going to also be able to carry on in the future with knowing what's going on. We're not going to hold anything against anybody, or we're going to deal with it right then. What did happen? Who deserves what? But like I said, when somebody gets thrown in prison, an open prison, like I said, I would treat people, just put them in like a giant concrete hog pen and feed them like hogs. God, on the other hand, he'll probably let them all stay in a Holiday Inn, and the women meet each other in a normal way and have children. Either way, the women in prison will not be able to keep their children. They will lose their children. Now, whether they lose those children completely, or they just go into a foster care situation, that's up to God. God's merciful. I'm not. God could put them in a foster care situation that allow them to do their time and everything, and then get their child back. It's just been raised by other people until then. that's the case, that's God's will. I'm not going against God. The, everything has to do with God. When we give our will to God, we've been given our will to governments, we've been given wills to criminals, we've been given to bullies, and everybody, except we don't have free will in this world. And A and I. A and I will, fast will A and I stop when we outlaw data transference or anybody taking it. Guess what? It's going to hurt them. Samsung years ago, I remember I was working for Walmart. Years ago, took Samsung TVs off our shelves. Why? Because the camera in your TV set, it had a camera could watch you even when it was turned off, unless it was unplugged. It was watching every household from inside, or the Chinese technology. I'm not sure it's Chinese or Japanese technology. Samsung, or might be Korean, but whatever. It was Samsung that we took off the shelf. It might have been LTDs too, but I think it was just Samsung. But they had two-way cameras on there, on that TV, and that's what they were doing, collecting data. The Chinese collect data on people. They don't even know what it's about. They don't even listen. But until they need you or need to exploit you or extort you, then they pull your name up. In other words, if you got a house that's in the way of production, or you do something that they want out of you, they put your name up on the computer and see all the data that they can use against you or for you. You see what I'm saying? That's how that Chinese government works. The Chinese put people in prison now. Let me issue how bad this situation gets. Now, as far as I know, the Chinese have done this. They put people in prison. They can take their kidneys or their liver, or a part of their liver, or take one of their kidneys, or one alone, while you're in prison, even if it's just for a political reason. That could include the eyes. One eye. It has no date. These people, I don't know if all the stories are true. I'm telling you what I've learned and what I know. We're going to find out everything shortly. It's already written in the book of life. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We have no choice. I'm only telling you, I'm only God's messenger to tell you. It's already written. God sees this refusal already. This last 5 years of refusal to listen. My name is no bigger now than it was years ago. Nobody knew me. I had a book published in 2012, a great book. It's still a 5-star book by Goodreads and everybody else, but it hasn't sold to anybody. Author House that published it has published 2 books, and neither one has sold to anybody. I haven't ever got any royalties from anything when I expected a lot. I paid a lot to have these books published. Then I started publishing myself. Even found my own printers, cheaper. Getting down the long story short, I made this broadcast. Look, this 1-2 diet plan. Try it. Do it for 30, 40 days, 50, 40 days. You should lose your body weight, your body fat, because that's what it's after, just your body fat. Once you got your body fat, now you know how to control your diet. You know what to do to keep from. If you one day you crave spaghetti, you go burning spaghetti. But then the next couple of days, eat popcorn and eat nuts. Go nuts. You know what I mean? You can get to controlling your body, but first you got to get your body down to a lean body mass and understand how to control it. That's what I'm going to do. And who's the one that gave me the idea and the place to look up and the information I got? The only one that does that is God. God's right behind all that. The research. He leads us to the research and to the understanding. And that's how we go so far and know so much. We start listening to God. He's the one that leads our eyes. I've had a strange life. I shook the hand of John F. Kennedy in 1960 at the Coliseum in San Jose, California. I was almost the shoulders of my cousin Johnny Hines. He was a Marine in uniform, but he didn't have his hat on, of course, because I was on his shoulders. And John F. Kennedy reached up and shook my hand, and it was in the San Jose Mercury newspaper. We had that clipping in our household forever. That's what I'm saying. I knew martial arts. Everybody knew I knew martial arts. I tried not to use martial arts, but I've been in a lot of fights, and it always was a fight, like my father said, with a bigger person. You pick out the biggest guy in the bunch, and he's the one you go to. He's the one you challenge. Come on, let's go to the side, so we don't both don't lose a job. We went there mean business. If I beat him, sometimes I beat him, sometimes I didn't, but I always made my point. And nobody else, none of the smaller people, the little ones, wanted to try. The ones that did, well, you can guess what happened. They didn't win. But that's what I'm telling you about. And a lot of times it was with the support of the bigger guy. I'm going to leave you now. Selena, I love you. That's my girlfriend. She lives in Giza, right where the three pyramids are in the Sphinx. She sees it every day. If she wants to look at it. But you see what I'm saying? Sometimes I change the position of my thing because of the glare that's behind me. I can see it. But Selena, you see the first one, you see this one, you understand everything I'm doing, and I'm going to be on this diet. If you buy the ticket now, I'll come. I'm not coming on my own. You're going to buy the ticket. You know where I'm going to stay? On the 5th floor of the Safari Inn, the Safari Hotel. You book the room there. That's like $6 a day. It's a hostel, but I'm used to staying there, and I love the people there. I've met so many people I love. Love everybody. I'm going to go. Things are starting to get noisy, and the dogs are starting to get impatient. So I'm going to go now. Thank God I got this much time with you. Okay, good night.